Hello, I'm Marlis Arnold, trade show marketing consultant and author of the book, Build a Better Trade Show Image. Welcome to the Trade Show Insights podcast with news, tips, and tools to expand your knowledge of exhibiting. In part 2 of our interview with Kathy Jennings from No Pressure Networking, we're talking about ways to stay connected with all the people that you meet at events, and also some tips for event organizers on how to make networking a part of the overall activities. Well, let's talk a little bit about, so we've talked a lot about how to start the conversation. What about afterwards? And I know this, especially when I work with exhibitors, this is an area where a lot of exhibitors really drop the ball, is the staying connected afterwards. What are some quick little tips you can share as far as developing some kind of a system so that you can stay top of mind and stay connected with these people you meet?
Well, absolutely. I think the follow-up starts way before the event ever happens. And that may sound funny because you can't follow up until after you've met someone, right? But we need to have an idea of what we plan to do before we go to the event. Once we're at the event, we are all consumed with, whether we're running our booth or we're actually speaking at the conference or just attending the conference, we've got a lot of other stuff going on. So to try to think that, I'm just going to get a bunch of contacts and then when I get home I'll figure out the follow-up is a huge mistake. And I speak from experience. I've been both an attendee, I've been a speaker and also an exhibitor, and I've done this very thing. So I know what it does to you.
We all have. I've done it too.
Yeah. So, and live and learn, right? We learn better ways of doing things so then we can incorporate those. But I would say that it starts well before the event because you want to think about what it is that you want people to do, not only at the event, but how do you plan to stay in touch with them? How do you plan to, keep them engaged with your brand and what you do without just trying to sales pitch them all the time. I think one of the worst mistakes we make is we get a bunch of cards or we get a bunch of contacts, whether we're exhibiting or whether we're attending, and then when we get home, we just send them information or send them to sales pages or try to set up calls to sell people rather than taking that little extra step to develop that relationship with them. So the key to this is really thinking, how can I stand out from a lot of the other people that are there? Now, email is a wonderful thing. It allows us to stay in touch with people, but it inundates us these days. We have so much email. So I would highly, highly recommend that instead of an email, that you actually send something through direct mail with people. It just makes such a different impression. We have such a high-tech society now that we need to have that little bit of a personal touch to things. And it stands out just because people don't get much mail. Like today, I got one piece of junk mail. That was all I got. Right. So, be that welcome piece of mail in somebody's mailbox. And whether it's a nice postcard and in fact, splurge that little, 10 cents more and get those 8x5 postcards that are a little bit bigger. Put a nice message on there. Give a few tips maybe. Put a nice quote on the front. It was great meeting you. And you can send them to an information page. You can send them to a page where they can download maybe a tip sheet about your area of expertise. You can send them to your latest blog post, whatever it is that you want to send them to that acts more of a resource rather than just a sales pitch to them. Postcards have done great things for my business because people just don't get them anymore. They're getting these emails all the time. So the other thing is, before you go into the event, if there is something that you can be giving away in exchange for their information, so those of us who are online marketers, we know this as the opt-in. So there's maybe a free report, maybe there's a tip sheet, maybe there's a cheat sheet or a short ebook about your topic of expertise that helps the reader or the person downloading it do something in their business. So if you're a company that you're selling widgets, then you want to talk about why they need, certain processes in their business, and it's more of a soft sell. You're not pushing them to buy this. You're talking around the topic, and you're giving them tips of maybe how to choose one, or maybe the 5 different ways they can use one in their business. And it's not your particular widget, it's that general widget. So you have something free that they can go and download, or they can even opt in and get it physically if you want to send it to them physically, in exchange for giving you their information. So the least amount of information possible is the best. That's just a comfort level that people have online. If they just give you their name and email, they're more likely to do that. If you want to ask for a phone number, you can try to get that too. Studies have shown that there's not as much success with that. People are not as willing to give out their phone numbers. They don't want telemarketers calling them. But
I hate when somebody forces me, like that's a mandatory line that I have to give my phone number.
And I don't ask for that. You can do a lot by just offering them something for free, and then using a series of follow-up emails to that particular giveaway or that opt-in free report or whatever you choose to give them, that leads them down a path to making a decision whether or not they want to purchase that, whether or not they want a free consultation call with you, whatever that next step is, without just constantly barraging them with sales messages. So you're providing value first, and that should always be what we want to do as we're following up with people. People are expecting those sales messages after trade shows, and it's almost like we're blind to them. We get so many of them in our inbox, we just kind of delete. And there may be great information in those emails that we really need for our business, but we're kind of getting numb to it all. So you want to make sure that you stand out, that you start with something that's a little bit different and not just barrage people with that sales message or that email that just kind of doesn't have much thought to it. If you're sending bulk emails that say, "Dear Sir" or "Madam," so that's not a good way to grab your audience.
Or dear first name.
Yes. Please, if you're going to use an automated system, test it first and make sure that it's not inserting weird information. And I tell you, I just delete messages like that. When I get things that say, "Dear Madam" or "Dear Sir" or, "Dear first name," because they forgot to, actually insert the information. I don't really hold on to that because I don't feel like they valued me enough to even put my name on something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say, staying top of mind. There are lots of things that we can do with direct mail. I don't know how familiar your audience is with bulk mail or, lumpy mail, we call it, where you may send them like a pen in the mail. And studies have shown that if there's actually something in an envelope, we tend to open it with a different expectation. A mutual friend of ours actually sent us M&Ms over Valentine's Day with an old-fashioned Valentine's card that you used to give out to your elementary school friends. And it's just a fun way to stay in touch. There was no sales message attached to it, but it definitely put her at the top of our minds when we got these things. And that's a nice way.
It stands out as being unique, and somebody put some thought into it. It's not just, like you said, it's not just a bulk email that you just, hit the send button and off it goes. It was something that actually took some thought and some time and just that little extra bit of personal touch.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, I think we're getting further and further away from having actual conversations with people. We're relying on electronic communication all of the time. So I would say, if you can make a phone call without it being a sales pitch, hey, I just wanted to see how you enjoyed the conference. Did you have any questions? That type of, I'd love to be a resource for you and also point you to, a page on our website. You can download this free checklist. And if you have anything else that you need, please feel free to call me. There's no sale there. There's no pressure there. And it was a nice, friendly conversation. And it probably takes less than 5 minutes. So if you make that sort of effort to communicate with and to really connect with the people that you want to stay top of mind with, it really stands out. It's amazing how, the old-fashioned kinds of marketing are actually kind of coming back, or like retro marketing or something.
True.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the new versus the old ways of marketing and connecting, what are your thoughts on if you go to an event, you meet people, and then you go on to, say, LinkedIn and connect with them? Is that appropriate? Is that come across as stalking, or?
I think it depends on your interaction with that person. And different social networking sites kind of have different rules of etiquette. And even the people on those sites have different ways that they approach their networking on those sites. For instance, LinkedIn, there are people there that are open to connecting with anyone. And so they don't necessarily have to know you or to know anything about your business. They're willing to connect. That's not how I tend to operate. I kind of save my LinkedIn for people that I've actually met in person, who are either connected to me in person or they are friends of people I'm already connected with in person, and that they've shown some sort of personal connection to me in their request to connect on that site. So they haven't sent me that.
Don't send that blank generic request.
Right. Don't send that thing that says, I'd like to add you to my professional network. Nothing says thoughtless more than using some generic template. So if they make an effort to say, hey, we both attended this event, we were in this session together, remember going to lunch, I'd love to stay connected, absolutely. That makes a totally different impression than someone who is just obviously going through their cards, sending messages to people just to amass connections. So I don't think it's stalking, but I do think, we should be aware of how we're connecting with people so that we're creating that personal connection. The other thing is, Twitter and Facebook tend to be a little less formal, and people are a lot more open on those sites. You don't actually have to, be friends with them in real life in order to connect. So I would say, check them out on those sites as well. You can follow along on their business pages on Facebook, or subscribe to their personal updates, or you can just follow them on Twitter, get a lot of information, interact with them on their blog if they actually, post things on their website, reply to their email newsletter, and once you've had some interaction with them, then you can kind of up-level that connection a little bit more.
That's a good point, because I get requests on LinkedIn a lot of times, and I look and I'm like, I have no clue who this person is. Now, perhaps they sat in on one of my exhibitor workshops, so they know who I am, but I have no idea who they are, but they don't bother to explain that connection to me. If they said, hey, I was in your such and such workshop, and, I learned a lot of great things I'm going to go implement or whatever, that's going to connect it to me. I'm going to go, oh, well, I don't know this person individually, but they were at this workshop, and so I'll go ahead and accept them. So
exactly.
I think
do is, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that just giving that extra bit of personalization is going to make a lot of difference, even if somebody is a little bit more closed in who they accept. If they know that they've got a connection with you, it's going to make a difference.
Absolutely. And, I said that I mainly reserve my LinkedIn account for people that I've met in person, but I have on many occasions I've been open to connecting with people because they sent me such a personal connection request. So-and-so recommended that we connect, and we're both members of this online group, and I thought it would be great for us to be able to support one another. They're showing an interest. The other thing that we can do when we're trying to connect with people that way is at least look at a business page or something about me. Don't just blindly connect with people. When I get those generic requests, I reply back, I'm not sure that we've met before. Can you refresh my memory?
I did that actually recently with somebody who sent a very, I'll say a very forward, come on strong kind of invitation to connect. And I just wrote back and I said, I'm sorry, forgive me, I can't remember where we met, and, please, refresh my memory. She never replied. So I was like, okay, that was probably just a blanket sales pitch.
Yeah. What I find is probably 90% of the time you won't get any reply whatsoever. The other 10% is, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm a friend of Linda's, and she told me to contact you. I'm looking for a job, and she said you have really good networking advice, blah, 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 So then there's some story behind it, and so we have this conversation. I still haven't necessarily connected with them, but I'm having this conversation and getting to know whether or not I want to connect. So whatever you can do to personalize those types of requests is best, and not just, I want to add you to my network, or something that's going on now is that they're just clicking friend, because that's a safe option. They don't have to choose any way that they know me other than that we're friends. And if I don't recognize your name and you say you're a friend of mine, I just assume it's spam and delete.
Yeah, that's the thing with LinkedIn that's kind of annoyed me. I've noticed that when they give you the you might know list, if you click on any of those that you want to connect, it doesn't give you the option to personalize the message at all. So I always try to make sure I only click on people on that page that I know who I am.
Right, exactly.
Well, Kathy, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up here pretty quick, but I wanted to just ask you one more thing for our show organizers and meeting planners who are listening. I know you have a service called the Event Energizer, and I think this is really fascinating. So you want to just explain a little bit what that is?
I would love to. It's so important to get people engaged with the event before, during, and after, so that they really feel bonded not only to the other people that they meet there, but also the real purpose and mission of that event and the organizers. It's been shown through research that the more engaged you get people, one, the more likely they are to buy, the more likely they are to return to the event, and the more likely they are to invite or recommend it to other people. So if you're really interested in spreading your message and really creating a community at your events, I would be thrilled to help out with that. What I offer are various different services, but anything from pre-event calls to kind of get people prepped for what they need to do in order to make the most of their time there. So a little bit of a value-added education session. At the event, we can design any number of interaction types of activities that we can do that help structure people's connecting time and gets them connected to one another, and also, again, to the mission of the event. And we've done things like networking makeovers or networking challenges. We've done crazy party hat exercises, and they're always a lot of fun. Even for people who are really introverted, it kind of relaxes the mood. It's not overly pressured. So it's just a great way to get everybody involved, getting them interested and engaged. And sometimes, that after lunch slump that happens, you need a little bit of a pick-me-up, and it's not enough just to give someone a candy bar or say, hey, how y'all doing? We got to get them interacting again, get them on their feet. So it's a great way to energize your audience.
Very smart. I think that's a really good tip because, like you said way back in the beginning, so many times people walk in and they're just scared because they don't know what to expect. But if you can, kind of break the ice for everybody as a group rather than, that one person walking in and feeling like they're isolated, if they come into an event like that and they feel like that, everybody's going to be acting silly and having fun and, I'm going to fit right in.
Exactly. Yeah, and I've gotten a lot of testimonials and emails from introverts in my audiences that have said, I've always hated networking and you actually made it fun. So that's the biggest compliment I can ever get. It makes my day, and I would love to be able to do that for people's events. So if they're interested in that, they can go to nopressurenetworking.com. My contact information is there. Feel free to get in contact with me, and we'll see what we can do.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kathy. Again, our guest today was Kathy Jennings from nopressurenetworking.com. And I just want to thank you so much, Kathy, for taking time out to share all these wonderful tips with not only the introverts, but with everybody who is in a trade show event or conference situation. And they've got a lot of great tools now that they can use at the next event they go to.
Thanks, Marla.
If If you haven't yet listened to part 1 of our interview with Kathy Jennings, be sure you go back and check that out. She's got a lot of great tips for what to do at the actual trade show, conference, or networking event to make your whole networking experience much more fun. Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues as long as it is shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the show notes. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights. Be sure to check out our show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. Until next time, I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening.